The Charlotte Hornets and the Miami Heat have agreed on a deal to send Terry Rozier to Miami for Kyle Lowry and a 2027 first-round pick. So I gotta ask you, how are you feeling about this trade?
Yeah, I think really both teams got what they wanted here. The Hornets got a first-round draft pick and freed up their future payroll, which I think a lot of people are overlooking here because Rozier was under contract for another 2 years, and I don't think they'll kind of get out of the pitfall that they're in until that time. They're in a pretty dead space right now with their rebuild, and they really got to free up more future salary cap to be able to move on and actually get into a rebuild and make some progress here. So I think they had a good trade here, and then the Heat were able to get the dynamic backcourt player that they have been looking for without giving up any of their young talent or major rotation players at other positions besides point guard. And I mean, Kyle Lowry is a future Hall of Famer, but the Heat, they're without a doubt getting an immediate upgrade at point guard over him with Terry Rozier, and one that does fill what they need at point guard. And that's kind of the basis for it. I think both teams won and got what they wanted here, so I like it for both.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think it's finally time Kyle Lowry feels what it's like to be on a losing team. He's kind of had his nice runs on the good teams, but in all respect for Kyle Lowry, I think that like you said, future Hall of Famer, great player, still great for his age. But I think that Miami just needed to do what they needed to do to make that kind of change, that difference maker for the postseason and just going deeper. And I think it's great. Obviously, Terry, he can hoop. He kind of got forgotten about in Charlotte, but he's a great player, averaging 23 points and 6.6 assists a game on pretty good efficiency as well. So I think that meshing him with, Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam, I think that it's going to be really great for the Miami Heat. And yeah, I think Charlotte, they'll probably likely just waive him. And I think that Kyle Lowry could be picked up by another team that, there's teams that need a backup veteran point guard. And I think that he'd be a great fit for that.
Yeah, I like that you point that out too. I don't think the final stop for Kyle Lowry will be Charlotte. I think he will get waived, bought out, whatever it might be. I don't think they're going to be able to move him again. I know the Knicks have already been rumored to want him, and I don't know if they're trying to create a Villanova tree over there with Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, but that would make sense, and you know how Tom Thibodeau likes his veterans, so I wouldn't doubt if that happened. But in regard to what Miami got again here, Kyle Lowry was still pretty good, pretty good defender and stuff, but not able to fill that third, fourth option type role in offense anymore, not anywhere close. I think he was only averaging about 8.5 points per game, but Terry Rozier definitely can do that. You alluded to it, he's having a career year scoring the ball at 23 points per game, career year playmaking too, averaging nearly 7 assists per game, and then he can be a good defender when he wants to be. The numbers don't really support him being a great defender anymore, but I think a lot of that is related to him being in Charlotte, them not being a good team, them not being a good defensive team. But now with him being moved to Miami, where they put a lot more emphasis on defense and simply playing for a team with a more winning mentality, I think he'll get back to that level on defense, and they definitely will need him to and want him to do that. I mentioned Kyle Lowry is still playing pretty good defense to them, so that will be a pretty big part of what they want him to do in their backcourt. Tyler Hero is by no means a great defender. He won't be taking on the toughest matchups, so Terry Rozier will be stepping into that role. He'll be taking on the toughest backcourt matchup on defense, and I don't think it'll be a big problem for him. I mean, age is not a factor here. He's only 29. It won't be a problem for him on defense, or it shouldn't be anyways. And then another thing with the age is that it won't be an issue with him declining throughout his contract, like Lowry did, obviously. I mentioned before, he is under contract for another 2 years here, so they will have him until he's about 31. And I don't think that's the problem. I mean, nowadays, players typically don't decline until a little bit after that with, the advanced technology nowadays and being able to stay in shape better and whatnot. I think that'll be fine. And then in regard to their trade assets, again, if they really did want to go and make another move, they could here if they wanted to. They retained a majority of their trade assets by only having to trade Kyle Lowry in a first-round draft pick. They do have another tradable first-round draft pick along with more contracts. I really don't think they need to, nor probably want to, but they could at this point. I think that's another benefit of making this trade rather than one for a DeJounte Murray or a Donovan Mitchell like they reportedly wanted to do at one time, which I don't think will happen, obviously. But I think that's the main benefit of this trade, and I think it, without a doubt, catapulted them into being in that top 3 in the East or top 4, depending on how you view it, with Boston and Milwaukee being number 1 and 2, and then Philadelphia as well. And then kind of how do you view them post-trade in that mix, and along with in general being the top teams in the NBA?
Kind of just to reiterate, having Terry now, I think that fits, right in their timeline for the Heat with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. I think that's exactly what they wanted with that 2-year kind of window for right now. And it just gives them a lot of, I guess, room to make changes. And, you asked about the postseason. I think that for me, as long as the Heat make the postseason at all, as long as they make the playoffs, they'll be good. I think they'll probably finish, I think they're top 4 in the East for sure. No matter what right now. But again, Miami's a team, they've proved it that you can never count them out. If they make the playoffs, look at them the last couple of years taking down the big dogs. I mean, if they make the playoffs, you better watch out.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. They're always a big playoff threat, but I think this will even help them finish a little bit higher in the standings. I don't think there's any worry anymore about them falling out of the top 5. I think they probably will get a home court playoff game, which they did not at all last playoffs, and it didn't matter anyways. But I really like it from that perspective, along with their timeline too, like you mentioned.